Okay. We are going live, I think. Okay, we're live. All right. So, hello, everybody. I have forgotten my script because we ran into all sorts of different problems. So, I'm going to just pull that up for a second. All right. So, the big reason for this is that we just want to create an idea for, or allow some themes and concepts to come from the theme for GMTK, for the jam that's going on. So we want to be able to just present a bunch of different ideas so that if you're looking to experiment with that project or with that game jam, but not feeling motivated, maybe you can you can use one of our ideas to get your project starting, or just use it to kind of get the ball rolling on a whole new idea of your own. Also, please feel free to jump into the chat at any time. There is about a 20-second lag, but we will try to check it. I'll try to check it out every now and then as we're going, and we will. It'd be great to have all sorts of additional theme concepts come into this as well. So, and I have a small child coming in here. Bye. Can you go? Those are other people. Say hi. Okay, now you need to go.
It's all downhill from here, folks.
Welcome to live. Okay. All right, so that's running. All right, so I'm going to run a quick little intro video kit thing, whatever. So let me play that. Right there. Nope, not that one. That's a different thing. One of these does it. Oh, that is it. How do I play it? Okay, I guess I'm not, because I don't know how to make it work right now. Okay, so we're going to just do a little bit of an introduction, just go around the room. Everyone takes about a minute or less to introduce themselves. I'll get it started. I'm Dan Violet Sagmiller. I've been doing gaming professionally for close to a decade now, and I've been doing professional programming for about 20, 25 years. And I have been just having lots of fun doing this stuff. It's one of the big things that drives me. And right now I'm working at Microsoft. I work on some of the HoloLens projects. Just to point out, anything that I say, this is nothing to do with what Microsoft does. I don't work in their gaming divisions. Any of this stuff I say doesn't really reflect on what Microsoft does or its decisions. Just making that clear. All right, let's move on. Carson.
Hey, I'm Carson. I'm from the Bay Area. I have been doing game development type stuff for about 5 years now, and I help to host meetups in San Francisco on artificial intelligence. So I'm very much interested in like the meeting between the two disciplines, and I think that pretty much says who I am.
Concise. Perfect.
All right, William.
Hi, yes. My name is William Cram. I'm in the Seattle area. I'm a recent graduate from Renton Technical College with a bachelor's in computer science. I got into programming in general about 5 years ago. I've been a gamer for life, and recently my team was awarded a grant from Oculus for our small virtual reality language learning program, and I was the lead animator and a programmer on the project, and I get joy from creating new ideas, programming them, animating them, and really bringing ideas and narration to life.
Very nice. Greg.
I am Greg Morton. So I'm a graduate from Penn Institute of Technology. I recently participated in the Climate Game Jam and designed for the project Renewables. It recently won the grand prize for that jam. So I'm just glad to be here talking with all of you and on another excellent jam team this year for the Game Maker's Toolkit Jam.
Awesome. All right, so somebody caught what that theme was. What was it?
It was joined together.
Joined together. Okay. All right, so joined together is going to be the theme that we're talking about. Just right off the top, anyone have something that just comes to mind right away?
I'll say one.
Okay.
So the Mark mentioned really quickly, he said joining could be physical or non-physical. So the first thing that popped into my mind is quantum superposition, like the non-physical interaction between molecules and how they're both in a state of spin in a sort of indeterminate state, and then you determine the state of one of them, and suddenly they're both in a determined state. I don't really have a really strong knowledge of quantum anything, so this is you should probably look this actually up rather than taking my sort of bad explanation. But Greg, it sounded like you wanted to say something as well.
Or not.
Yeah.
While Greg is coming back to us on that, I like the idea. Join together just means how to respond to one another, not necessarily they're directly linked together on some equal level. So perhaps there's from an emotional balance when one person's happy, one person's sad, or when one thing is hard, one thing soft, in a kind of complementary form where it directly influences one another. And maybe having that as a game mechanic where it's like, as you affect things, kind of the toggle ability where it's like if you have something hot and then it affects cold in a certain way, in this way, and that way, and you can affect the environment in such a way.
I like that. That brought something to mind. The
sounds
idea
cool.
of I kind of pictured when you were saying that two different screens. Like you basically have a game where it's split screen and both players are controlled by the same controller. And then they have a different environment that they're running through, but there is a way to avoid all enemies and be able to make it through the path, whatever it might be.
Yeah. So what I was thinking was, say, joining two disparate game genres or mechanics together. Like, we've seen stuff like puzzle platformer, which is a pretty obvious combination. But what about RTS and platformer, or platformer and RPG, in which you use those mechanics in a unique way? I'd hate to cut this short, but I believe that I need to meet with my team right now, but it's been great talking with you guys and everyone else here who's watching on YouTube. I hope you all have a really productive day and a great game jam. See you all later.
All right, we'll see you later.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us, Greg.
You all have a good one.
Yeah, so anyone who didn't catch, Greg is actively part of a team that's going to be working on GMTK. For me personally, I'm on the fence, and I might base what I do whether on if one of the themes really calls out to me this time. But I do have an active game project that I'm working on now on the side, so we'll see. All right, so join together.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go. Or not.
I
Okay.
was just gonna say, likewise, I'm on the fence, and from the last jam, I've generated some word with that game and develop it a bit more. So we'll see whether I really commit myself to this, like you said, Dan.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think I had a brief video glitch there, which probably showed up on the stream too, but whatever.
Yeah, and I myself, I've got a lot going on. In fact, I'm starting animation school come July, and then I don't know if I can actually say what another thing is, but I might be helping create content for a virtual platform this summer too, combined with tutoring and all this other stuff. So we'll see how it goes. If I can find 5 minutes somewhere in the day, I might take on another task.
Okay. Going back to the theme in specific, I'm thinking join together is one of the basic things like magnets, where you have something where you can turn magnet systems on and off to attract either objects in the game and move stuff around, or attract or detract enemies.
I like the concept of like world manipulation with it. Like maybe everything's kind of floaty, but you almost create your own level by joining them together in a tether magnet like format. So it's a really kind of free form level generation thing. I love games that have a very visceral action feel, so I can almost imagine a fun parkour game, leaping around and everything. The buildings are free flying, and then you can like grappling hook, or you can link them together, and you can even pull them or pushing them apart. There was a game, an old game that I absolutely loved, and I really wish it would be remade, called Rocket Jockey, where you rode on a rocket and you flew around in an arena fighting against other rocket jockeys, and you could either be like playing a soccer like game or just elimination, but you had two grappling hooks, and you could grapple onto poles, or you could grapple onto jockeys, or you could grapple onto their stuff. And then the thing is, you could tether them together, so if you tethered to a wall and a jockey, you would literally rip him off the rocket he was on. And my favorite part was you could then grab onto him while he was on the ground and then just fly in the opposite direction. And I don't know what happened, but it was an instant win for you. So I'd like to think he came out of it just fine. Probably not.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I definitely like the sound of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll mention just a quick thought. When Dan, you mentioned the a single controller controlling like two different suits, it just made me think of like the question of like the interface. So if we're joining things together, we have something that's like the connector between the things, and whether that's like a physical force like magnetism or gravity, or this is something like abstract like to social interactions, or what exactly is sort of an interesting thing to explore.
I like that. That kind of made me think of, what about going through like a platformer or something where you are traveling in a game and you can move left and right and you get one button, like on an Xbox controller, for instance, like you get the X. And what that does is you come up to an object that can do things like a button that opens a door or releases a trap or something. And you can assign that button, like you press X and then press the button you want it to be assigned to. So X will change it, and it changes it so now anywhere you are in the level, you hit the B button and it's going to release that trap door. And maybe you travel around and you kind of solve the puzzle, but you're joining the buttons that you're controlling to the actual gameplay elements.
Interesting.
I kind of view that like Portal, how you would have your your blue portal and your orange portal, and you shoot them off in different directions. But then I would always forget which one I actually sent off, and I imagine this is going to be the exact same thing, except there's more buttons.
There was building on that idea. There was another great game series, and people will quickly learn that I am old because most of the games I'm referencing now are at least 15 years plus old. Still great though. I believe it was Deception, and it was actually a long-running series in Japan, and you were someone who was in a castle whose sole job was to defend the castle against good guys. They would come in and basically try to rescue a damsel, but you were the damsel and you were trying to kill them. So you would place traps all around this castle. Yeah. And the thing is, you could assign like, oh, this would go to this button, this would go to this button, and no matter where you were in the castle, no, let me take that back. You could be in a room. Each room had its own button set up. So you could set up, if you just entered the room, you could press the buttons in a certain way and execute traps. And the best part is they had different physics behind them. So one would push them a couple blocks away. One could catapult them into the air. And some traps were from above, some were from below. So you could combo these attacks. And I remember some probably very telling thing that really got me happy when I executed like a 30-part combo that had someone like flying through the air in pieces. Kind of building on that idea where it's like you control all the stuff and that excitement, because it was all like timing based. Take on your idea of having traps around an area, do that against someone else, and yeah, now you have that excitement of like trying to remember what button executes what trap at what time and having it all go sideways. And almost more fun comes from it when everything goes wrong than goes right.
I like that. That also made me think of, what if you reverse that and you have an AI-driven character that is trying to escape a room, but you keep dropping things like a rake in front of them or banana peel, like the rake joined with the face.
See, and now we're getting kid-friendly territory, and I love it. Looney Tunes for the win.
I'm not sure exactly what you said there because your like audio glitched momentarily for me,
Okay,
but
I'm
it
sorry.
brought to mind like a Rube Goldberg type thing. So
Mhm.
I think you may have said something like the broom becomes joined with like a banana peel, and that
Oh,
just um,
I was saying a rake, like a person's
or a
walking
rake.
along, they
Sorry.
step on the rake, and then the rake flies up and hits them in the face. Another idea that I was thinking of was a potato sack race, like, but you do it online, multiplayer, and you do it like you have you ever seen the game Running Man? I think that was what it was called, where you just press like QWER to control like the knees and the feet.
Q or T or
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, but then make it multiplayer. You add the potato sack race element, or even just add 2 more buttons to that, or 1 more button. So you've got like that middle joined one that's trying to work out in between. And that's sort of like the double driver technique in that there's a video game that I can't remember, but actually I guess this would be a perfect example for it. So like a racing game, I wish I remember the name of it, but there was like all sorts of like upside down driving where your car's like magnetized to the track. But it would have something in it called double driver where 2 players would play simultaneously controlling the same car, and the game would basically just put your combination of keys together. So if one was pressing left the other was pressing right, you would go straight. If one pressed brakes and the other did not, you would get about 50% brakes.
That's such a great idea.
That's quite novel.
It's a great way to lose friends, but I mean Mario Kart has probably been doing the same thing. Oh man. What about let's jumping back to the split screen idea for a little bit. I like games where one person has information that the other person needs, and I like that idea of like a UI concept. I was like, what if someone had like the entire UI, the entire graphics, all the information, but the other player was in control of all the action. So you had to help one person escape, and so all you could do is communicate with them and give them stuff. So they're in this action-packed level. The thing is, the things you need to help them, like say, successfully escape or successfully get into a button as efficiently as possible. Otherwise, your other character who has the map, who has the inventory, was going to die, right? You're in a locked escape room kind of thing. So it kind of goes off that balance. So you would have things like a health meter, even though they're not really doing anything. They have a health meter, and you have these elements like the room's going up in flames, whatnot. I think that would offer a good kind of not risk reward, literally a fire under someone's ass, while being like, I need to give this information as efficiently as possible to this other person and hope they don't mess up.
Okay. I like that.
I'll say I had a concept very much like that not too long ago, just really quickly, of you are like the dark force which is inhabiting this item, let's say a sword, and whenever you get picked up by an entity, then you are in essence possessing them, but you're not controlling them per se. You're still just controlling the sword. So you have to sort of convince them to like go where you want them to go, and they may be very nonplussed about that.
I'm sorry.
And it's like locked to the hand, so it's not like they could ever drop it.
Yes, yes. Until they die, and then some other minion picks it up.
And like the last action you could take is try to make it look like it was just they died fighting a robot, not like they happened to kill themselves because they're like, I can't deal with this guy. So it's like you fling it over here. Oh, that's a great idea.
Maybe a game about how cats won't leave you alone.
It can start off with you trying to escape the cats, and as you run, they're just like dangling from you, and there's just like an army of cats constantly following you. But at some point, you realize there's a synergy between you and them, and you become the cat thrower, and you can actually weaponize them. And so they're basically saw blades flying through the air.
Cactuses that want to hug.
So I want to throw out one idea idea that probably many people have thought of, and one idea that probably I would say fewer people have thought of. So, one idea I think probably plenty of people have thought of is like a tag team of some sort. So you'd have like that you're doing your fighting game and you tag in somebody else. Pretty simple. One that I think probably fewer people have thought of is like a class action lawsuit. So joining together to accomplish a legal end.
One of my favorite
Maybe you'd
memories when
be
I was
trying to convince. Sorry.
no. I was just gonna say one of my favorite memories I had with a friend of mine is when my friend Desi, who is an absolute smartass, a dry smartass, and she's fantastic. And we were talking to a friend at work, and she was saying some smartass things to him, but I was behind her, and then I would chime in and I would add my smartass things, just kind of elevating that together. And we just kept going back and forth like that. That would actually work for combining the tag team procedural or like the your two ideas, because it could be like you're a team of lawyers, but you can't say two things at the same time, so you have to say something and then they have to say something, and you have to hope it kind of combines up to argue the case kind of thing.
Ooh. This kind of drives an idea almost like Mad Lib's generation. I was thinking, like, how do you create the game? And what if you had a character that was trying to travel through a level, and as they're traveling through a level, 2-player game, you have each person has to alternate on giving a command, and they don't just get to give perfect commands like go left, go right, go up, go down. They get like cards to play or something. So at random, there's like they have a hand of like 5 different cards that they could play, and so they're trying to get the character to a goal, and they have to figure out some way to get it to work.
That's awesome. I love that idea. Like it's like, oh, I can't go forward, but you have 2 forward cards and I have 1 back card. So you go forward 1, I'll go back, and then you go forward again, and we'll still make progress.
Or if they can't even talk to each other. So the 2 players have to each lay down a card that are like face down, and then they're trying to get it to a goal, and hopefully their cards work together. But they can't communicate. Of course, with Discord, things like that, you can't really regulate that as well. But if you put it as like an online game, just one of those ones where people get paired up randomly, I think that could work. I also had an idea for always stuck to something. Like, imagine Spider-Man, and the only way that he can shoot the web from his wrist again is by releasing another web. That he has to basically have another web stuck to him until he releases it again and can grab something else. So he's trying to get somewhere, and he's trying to grab onto the things that he can just pull with him. Like, oh, there's a newspaper. He grabs onto the newspaper so he can run. Or then he grabs onto like a train, but he can't really control just like letting go. He can never let go.
It makes me think of if Spider-Man actually had issues with like flying and falling, so he's always just anxious about getting around. So it's like someone who's on a bridge and they're holding tight and hoping never to let go. Same thing here, grabs on desperately and can't just release both at the same time.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's the RPG element Greg was mentioning as a consideration before he left, was the idea that, he was just saying bring up RPG in general, but I was thinking that RPG, you always have like a group of characters, and in almost every game, you go somewhere and then another character is following you. And I'm kind of picturing like a remake of Lemmings now. So you guys know Lemmings, where they just drop in and they just keep going back and forth doing whatever, and you try to block them off and give them steps and whatever. I'm imagining a thing like Lemmings and Snake combined, where the Lemmings just keep following the leader and you have to redirect them, but you want to make sure that, okay, there's like a badger coming over and you don't want the badger to eat any of them, but you're just leading them. They're all going to follow the next one. So you got to try to get them away from these obstacles in kind of time when you're going around them, so that this crossover thing doesn't end up getting them. Plus, that also combines two games. But Go on.
So I'm not sure what you just said triggered this. Maybe because my brain is just filled my short-term memory with the idea, and now I can't even think of anything else. But thinking of like ants and like an ant colony, and how sometimes ants will join together to form like a physical bridge. Anyway.
No, that's great. I mean, just the thought of the ants crawling up one another, and then you see it fall down to form that chain link bridge. It's a great visual. I love my great visuals, and that's a perfect one. Oh man, I had something. What if, going on that RPG element, what if you had like a again, this is one person controlling one aspect that one person would usually control, but it's split between two. You had an action game, but there were stats to it. But the thing is, another person could affect those stats. So you had someone trying to build like a magic-like character, but they're like, no, no, no. And they put all your stuff into strength. So now you had to deal with the fact that you have all these magic abilities, but all you could do is punch really hard. But if you built the system that it actually was flexible enough, so there's like, you could punch someone really hard with fire. And so you could keep trying to adapt to them trying to mess up your gameplay.
I want to add something to that. Do it so multiplayer. You got 2 players. Each of them are designing their characters. They get to choose whatever powers and key items of value they have, but the other players get to choose a negative trait to apply to the opposing character, and the opposing character doesn't get to know what it is. It could be that every time there is a yellow brick, they will trip.
That works.
So I just had this. I just had this really quick idea of like a zombie character, and they're like losing limbs over the course of the game, and they have to like reassemble themselves out of found parts, and so they're literally joining together different like, or you could have like different creatures joined together as a sort of separate idea.
There's a game. The idea is great. There is a game called, is it Stubbs the Zombie, that really builds on that idea, that is absolutely sublime, where it's like, I believe your body can be controlled independently from your head, and your head is like a drone at some point, or you can like the arm can move around and do things. It is a really good idea. It is a very good idea. And I always like, maybe this was me growing up in the Power Rangers age, I love the idea of multiple things coming together to form like a whole. What if
Voltron?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yes, exactly. What if we, instead of having this major creature be built, what if instead people controlled individual elements in like some smaller capacity, like I Am Bread. Take I Am Bread, but people controlled a thing of meat, and people controlled a thing of cheese, and your job was to form together and become a sandwich. So You had that same quirky control scheme, but you were coming together and just becoming a sandwich or a hoagie or becoming a chocolate milkshake or something.
I like that.
There was a story concept that I had before that I think might play out well for a lot of different game styles. But the idea was that you are a superhero that just gained your powers, and there is an enemy that also is created in the world that is also gaining powers. And what you come to find out over time is that every time that you grow and improve your powers, it makes the enemy, that basically you are 2 halves to the same whole. And so the only way to win is to somehow destroy both of yourselves, or some other solution along the way that I don't know.
Maybe another solution would be to find a way to take away your own power. So you can trash their power too.
Oh, that'd be an awesome game idea. So the the enemy's trying to destroy a city, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get rid of my laser vision? How do I stop him from being able to use this, or her?
Put a blindfold on.
Maybe.
That was I don't want to. I don't want to go into too much spoiler territory for um, this excellent game that came out rather recently. But there was a mechanic where you could control the powers you got, and the thing is, the more you could get these more powerful powers, but then you were looked at as evil by by like these kind of deterrents in the game. So you had your basically your choice of being a stealthier a stealthier being inside of a slightly harder game, but not risking all these extra environmental things, or becoming stronger and more superhuman, but then being at risk of like having the whole world turn against you. And I like it almost this own balancing difficulty level of like, let's say you go in there and you're like, you don't choose any powers, you just take your most basic skills and you just get through it as good as possible. The whole game's really hard, but you get to the bad guy and he's just some dude because you never powered up, he never powered up. So the last boss battle, even though you've been through hell and back, is two dudes just duking it out with fisticuffs.
I saw a video game like that, or a movie like that, where it's like they had all these epic scenes in it where there were like laser shots and blasts from these superhero like characters, and then when it got to the end, they were just punching each other in the face. It's like, what? But that did lead me to one other concept. Let the hero win. You are a bad guy for hire who specifically specializes in being hired by heroes to help them look like bigger heroes. So you work with a plan where it's just like, okay, you're going to destroy the building, and then I'm going to catch the building. So you know where they're going to be. Now you have to destroy the building so that it falls where they are and not some other direction, because they don't have the ability to run where it's going to go. They need your help to make it look like a movie.
That's such a great idea. It could almost be its own rhythm game, and it because it's like, oh, you take down these buildings and you do these, but you have to do it in the right order for the hero to be able to respond. If you do it wrong, then the hero looks really bad. So it's like building here, building here, building here. So it's like coordinating an action scene, and you can really expand upon it by having superheroes with different powers. So it's like, if it's a Superman hero, knock down the building. But if it's like a Flash-like hero and you knock down a building, it's going to be a whole different situation.
I'm imagining a counterpart on that as well for Let the Hero Win, that when the hero wins, you still have to get away as the bad guy. So you have to escape. The hero's going to not really be successful in that, but if you get caught by the police or something, then you still get caught. And then you switch roles to the hero, where you have the hero's ability, and now you have to try to stealthily get the bad guy out that you ended up getting caught.
You can start off by like giving something to the villain to make it look like he has some tool to escape, but then the same mechanic plays out where you have to look like you're stopping him while only opening up opportunities. Oh, my laser vision missed, and now there's a large hole in the wall to get out of the jail cell, something like that.
Yeah, and Carson, you were going to say something?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have a sort of less fleshed out idea that's sort of churning in the back of my head. Joined together, one of the first things that just sort of clicked was SQL joins. And I was trying to think, like, how do I take like SQL join and make this into something that would be interesting, like game-wise? So you both have probably encountered or played Magic the Gathering before, right?
Yes.
And it's sort of got that Calvin ball element where the rules are sort of in the cards so that things about the game can change based on the cards. So what occurred to me is maybe you have like some different rule sets that you're combining using some form of join, a right join, left join, inner join, other joins. And sort of coming up with a synthetic rule set for some aspect of the game.
Okay.
I really like that, and I understand that far more than current Magic the Gathering rules. No idea what's going on anymore. Oh man, I played back in the day of Revised, and it was a magical game then, and I know it's still a magical game now. But I'm like, back then it was like 2 lines, and it described what it did, and then at that point, it even just said, "Oh, this creature can fly." Now you have one word that represents 19 different other things that snowball into other things, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go back to my simple Dark Souls game or something like that. I understand. I can just survive.
Yeah. I worked at Wizards of the Coast like a decade ago, and I think they had like some 30,000 tests in order to validate that the different cards would still work together. It was insane.
Oh,
Yeah, it can be a
when I bought.
technical challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I even bought the Magic the Gathering rulebook, and it was like a little tiny rulebook like this, and now I can picture it being like an omnipedia that is like 4,000 pages. Um, yeah, yeah. Still good times. Still good times. I'll take it over Pokemon.
That could be a modification to Magic the Gathering, where you literally have to play 2 cards together, and they end up combined. So you end up with one Magic the Gathering card that ends up having all of the rules and all of the strength and I was going to say weaknesses. Well, yeah, weaknesses and shield or defense power all tied together.
They have something sort of like that. I mean, I don't know what, I don't remember all the rules around it, but they have like cards where on the back side of the card, it's like half of a card. And so you can play them both. And then it's like a full double-sized card.
Okay.
They got there first. Dang, Wizards.
I believe Yu-Gi-Oh had Exodia. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. They do have those combined cards. In fact, I believe Pokemon is now releasing a set that has 4 cards combined into one large card.
Oh my!
Yeah, right? I would like to see someone try to play that as one card. It's like they have a little card sheet and it's folded, but when they play it, they put it down and then they just unfold it and try to like cheat the system and be like, here it is. You know, and really, speaking of games with crossover mechanics and joining, back in the day at the start of the card game boom, SimCity had a card game, and it was actually pretty neat because half the cards would be like street cards where you just laid them down, and then you had building cards that you put around them. And it was almost like generating your own Monopoly kind of game if you wanted to think about it like that. I only ever had the chance to buy like one booster before I never saw that game again, but it was a really great idea. Maybe it's because I love city builders, but combining deck mechanics and city building could be really good. I know there are a couple of games that have that kind of thought process, but make it more real time, make it faster, make it flow, things like that.
Okay. You guys can't see this because I just pulled it up onto my screen, but all the streamers at home will see, all the people at home will see this. But I brought up the website for a GMTK game jam, and I have the theme up here, and it's saying, like, just to read this out, this year's theme is joined together. I want to see games where at least 2 elements are connected together in some way. And what I'm seeing is, what about the idea of word games? Like, literally joined to gather, where you find words like to gather and you put them together, but because they phonetically sound close enough, they can come across as together. So you have a word in your puzzle and you're trying to find, and you give a random selection of like a bunch of other words, and you have to select 2 words you can put together. Some of them will be a lot easier. I can't think of any right now, but it would just 2 words where it's 2 words already combined.
What I hear is that you are currently trying to gamify puns, and I don't know if I can stand for that.
Okay, that's perfect. I've got an idea that will irritate Will.
So let me build really quickly off of Will was talking about like decks, and it just like I mean, I sort of brought it up with the Magic Gathering, so I'm building off of Will's idea. I swear. Okay. Thinking about decks, and like I'll say I'm just naturally like not attracted to like cards in video games. It just kind of annoys me. However, okay, so for where this idea started though is like binding decks, like different sets, and then it occurred to me maybe actually you have worlds and you're smashing together worlds and you're having some like interaction between the denizens of the worlds.
Ooh, that sounds like America right now. No, but I think that is a really good idea. There could be like a base underlying AI system where they have their beliefs and someone else has their beliefs, and then something forces them into a small area, joins them together, and they like everything kind of plays out. If anything, it'd be amazing social experiment.
Yeah. I'm having trouble imagining like how you would even create this, but I guess as long as the content is limited, like this group represents this specific thing, like they really like wheels, and this other group really likes catapults. So you end up putting them together, and you come up with something. I don't know, but more on like the political side.
Yeah, like combine one group likes ranged, one group's likes melee, and the thing is like if you use one character more than another, you control both characters at the same time, right? But if you use one character more, the other character won't be as happy. They don't want to see you going around swinging a sword, or they don't want to see this. So you have to balance it out because there will be moments that favor one side over the other, and it can kind of control your path further down. And so it could actually end up dictating who's more powerful. But then, like again, like say towards the end, you come to these two groups, you find these two groups are together, and if you're completely neutral or you're balanced, it can be like a form of understanding, and both sides are fine with that. But let's say you went all out on the melee one, the ranged ones are really pissed at you, and all of a sudden you have to fight a boss battle over there.
So, just a really quick idea, or I mean, I could go into it a lot, but I'm not going to. The idea of like joining cultures. So, like maybe a certain tribe has a specialization in like pottery, and another tribe has a specialization in like taming wolves. This is just sort of this idea that I've been toying with in terms of thinking about how do we end up as this really rich human society, maybe transitioning from something more hive oriented where we're a lot more what's the word, it's like a social habit to be similar to other people. It's conformity. We're moving from conformity towards specialization.
I'm having trouble visualizing that right now. When you were talking, I was kind of imagining civilization, how you have like one side developed, part of the history developed pottery or masonry, and another side developed like stone cutting tools or something. I don't remember the combinations, but then from that you end up getting a new item on the tech tree. For the rest
I
of
like
the
that
idea.
My visualization for it is ant colonies. I don't know if that makes it any easier.
Still grasping on those ants that form the clay pottery and those ants that tame the wolves.
Yes.
I really want to see an ant ride a wolf right now. And let's face it, there's a third Ant-Man coming out. We might get there. I do really like the idea of specializations, and then after you specialize so much, the only way to move forward is to combine them together and see what kind of happens. It's interesting that you bring up Sid Meier-like games because was Spore a Sid Meier game?
I don't know.
I forget offhand, but like just creating, like you don't actually create the creature, but it's born out of necessity, and so it just takes random, like you can put in extra arms, extra legs, things like that, but it'll make it beefier and whatnot and join it together. And then like generations will take some of the better traits as they keep keep going. And so like just the combining of traits, the combining of skill sets, all that stuff always plays out really fun. I think the problem is not the problem, but like the systems behind it can grow really, really, really intricate. But that's what's so fun about things like Magic the Gathering and whatnot, right? It's like when you when I played, I was a blue or I was a white red guy. You know, I was defense until I nuked you with like 18 fireballs, and I was that ass. But the blue augmented stuff, and that was great. It's
It
the
was you.
combining of those. Blue was amazing. Blue was amazing. I was just not smart enough at the time to properly utilize that. It's like the only thing I had that were blue were bird creatures. But like things like that. I'm a big fan of combining elemental aspects. So almost like I love things like Avatar, The Last Airbender, right? And when you see abilities combined together, water and fire create steam like that, I would love to see more joining of those kinds of mechanics, right? Almost as if independently they can't succeed, but combined together you can do so much with them. I'm going to let someone who knows a lot more about that kind of stuff than me take over on that. I'm just saying words out loud.
I don't know that I know anymore, but I can take over for a short minute. Just the idea of like offspring of like different creatures coming together and producing something that's a hybrid.
I like that. There was a game, I forget what it was called, Boxcar 2D, but I think the website's still there, like boxcar2d.com. And you go there, and it's this AI that just runs. You just let it run on your computer in the web browser, and it keeps reproducing cars. And it uses like, it's got a couple AI algorithms, including a genetic algorithm, where it takes like 2 of the most successful from the last round and puts them back in. But you get to see this AI, and you just leave it there, and then you come back a couple hours later, and you see like, oh wow, it's actually like making it 600 meters in this rugged terrain.
That's really cool. That's really cool. That'd be a great tool just to teach what AI does in general. Such a great visualization. I don't know if this is too literal, too on the nose, but it'd be an interesting, just kind of time-based concept where you had to, it can almost be like a programming game, and your job was to, let's say you had 3 or 4 different OS systems, like Linux or GAC or Windows, something like that. And you were kind of like this IT person. You were always this IT person who was on the verge of losing their job. So your job was to like connect up your company's computers together. So you had to jump from one computer to another and like use this faux programming language to basically make one computer talk to another. And then once you made that work, you had to go running across the level and program it and join those 2 computers together. And you're basically networking this whole world together full of competing OSs, and just it being chaotic, and you know things screw up and you see, oh, this exploded over there, so I need to go over there and I now need to do like activate the fire alarm so that way it puts out the fire over there, but if I don't do it right, it's going to destroy all the computers on the level, kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. There's a lot you could play with networked computers or networked anything for joined together.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the meta of this, which is that we are connected right now through the internet.
Exactly. It's like joining could just be one element doing anything with another element out there. I mean, we live in such a world where everything's joined together. I mean, Amazon is absolutely trying to do that with an opt-out thing with Sidewalk, right? It's trying to join all our Echo devices for a mesh network. But yeah, like Katamari Damacy did such a great job of having a fun, simple mechanic about joining together, just rolling around and collecting things.
Awesome. So a couple other things to try considering for this is not just the idea of games in specific, but everyone's role on a project. So artists, not necessarily testers, are usually kind of more after the fact, but so we have artists, we have designers, we have audio people, musicians, and so join together, like perspectives on what it could mean to a musician. immediately I'm thinking like musical instruments that tie together. Like you have a musical song that has like some basic notes, and then you go through and you keep adding them. And then some generic algorithm could be applied to it to understand that certain tones and timing to produce something. Or it just plays a song at the beginning of the level. And then you travel around learning what noises make. And then once you find one, it's like, oh, hey, this is one of the notes, and it highlights the note. And now you have to try reproducing that same pattern from what you found.
That's great. Divinity is a really good example. I believe you can have, like, you have a party of, I believe it's 4 or 5, I forget offhand, but each one has an instrument associated with them, violin, flute, things like that. And then their music actually, like when you're playing with them or when you're in a group together, and depending on what's going on, their instruments will actually flow in and out with one another, so it combines to make a very unique soundtrack, because it's all based about basically your choices and your actions at the time, which takes an immense amount of effort, but it absolutely pays off, because if anyone's played the original Sins 2, it's just a fantastic game. And then on a less impressive note, I had an idea recently while I was walking through Value Village, in fact, where it was like, what if there's someone who's, you know how you see people listening to music and kind of grooving as they walk down the street? Just like as they're playing, like as you're just walking around a level, you can control them doing different dance moves and things. And if you get combos going, the whole world starts to ebb and flow around you and go with the beat. So you see things moving and swaying and grooving, and all of a sudden people following behind you, and all of a sudden you have a conga line. So it could almost, building on your snake idea, you could almost have like someone walking around a city, and then your whole job is to get everyone kind of moving and grooving with you as you walk around the city. I love rhythm games too, by the way.
I
So
like
I'm like,
that.
I'm all for this. I grew up playing. I played more DDR than I went to school. I'm not ashamed to say that.
So, do I get correctly? You'd be basically collecting like a Congo line of little like musical bits.
It could be dancing ants if you want.
I like that. I like that.
Oh, wait, are you talking about like notes? Like where
That's-
everyone in the Congo line has a note?
That's such a great idea. Yeah.
Have you ever done that thing
also
where
what
like
you were saying?
have you ever done that thing with like a group of friends where like, you know, somebody will be like bomb, bomb, and somebody will be like slapping on the car, and you'll just like all join in and do a little part to it?
I like that. Oh, I'm just imagining a group of people just standing around in a room like mechanics or something, because there's lots of stuff to bang on. But then you tap on a person, and as soon as you tap on them, they make they take whatever they're doing, and they just kind of like take the wrench and they go tap on whatever's next to them. So then maybe you're like tap, click, 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 and then you click on someone else, and you try to do this all in rhythm, and you kind of see all these different notes build up. And maybe you even click on a person, and when you click on a person, you can also click on the stuff around them and say, okay, well, the mechanic now hits the window, so there's this window shatter sound.
That's such an amazing, even if it's not even a game per se, that would be such an amazing visualization tool to go along with even a complex like remixer or something, or a sound machine. Just seeing that happen, because I don't know, I hope they're still around. It was really good back in the day. Anybody here remember Stomp?
Yes.
Yeah.
For our audience, if you don't know what Stomp is, it was a big thing back in like the 90s and maybe early 2000s, I don't know, but it was like a musical production, but it was more about using different tools, using trash bin lids and different tools around you to make the sound, and their stage production was great.
It was like Blue Man Group, but a little more wild.
Yes, exactly. A Blue Man Group, if the group was the people from Rent.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yeah, and it was, I always loved that, and that's such a great idea. Like I could now envision, like, I love that mechanics idea where you have like 5 mechanics going around, and basically you're a conductor, and you just go over and you position, and you're like, do this, and this, and you get him into a groove, and you go this, and you get her into a groove. And really, again, I like, music, like gameplay wise, I'm willing to push that aside because just as a tool, that would be unbelievable.
That also
That would be
sounds,
so much fun to watch.
and hearing you talk about that, and also just the idea in general, I feel like that is now a game that I would play if I saw that, and then especially with the ability to record a session. So you can take it, and after you're done with it, you can play it and save it, and then share it out on Twitter or on YouTube or something. And then everyone can come in and they see like this group of mechanics or some people at a library or I don't know, whatever place they're at, just randomly putting together music like you might actually see someone doing. Someone's in the room tapping on their desk, and then someone else just starts adding to it until eventually the entire classroom does stuff.
And it can be such an organic thing because, yeah, you can have it so it is just one person starting out, right? Start of the song, they just do one thing. But then you can have people come in. You can have a customer bring in a new car, and all of a sudden their horn starts adding to it. You can see, like, you can have a park scene, and then you can have birds getting into the mix. And the thing is, this is easily expandable with multiplayer because then you can have people kind of ebb and flow and come in and out and do whatever they want. Do they want to contribute to hitting a bench? Do they want to pick up a hammer and just start smacking a car? This is why we're removing point totals. But yeah, no, it offers so much fun. It just sounds like so much fun. Like I would YouTube watching this. I would absolutely play it. It sounds great.
Okay, we're also at time. We're 1 minute past, but these have been some awesome ideas, and I definitely want to go through the session again and do this stuff again.
Absolutely.
Okay, so anyone who's listening online, which as far as, unless the chat system is messed up for me, no one has contributed ideas online, but that's okay. I think many of the people who may have joined and are watching right now weren't there when I suggested contributing your own ideas and concepts up here. Anyway, but yeah, we're planning on doing this again for more game jams, and it's something that we'd like to do and get different panelists every now and then, have different guest panelists who join us. And we'll change stuff out and getting some variety of people, different backgrounds, different considerations on everything that we can, just to get all sorts of different ideas out here. So if you're interested in becoming a panelist, by all means, feel free to drop a line on here and I'll see about reaching out to you. Additionally, yeah, if you've got more ideas, feel free to keep adding them to the chat. I don't know if it shuts the chat off or when you replay it. I think I'm going to try to configure it so you can keep adding stuff, but I don't know if that works. Anyway, this was really fun. I'm going to sign the chat, or I'm going to sign the end the stream now. All right, bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.